this video is going to be particular to character creation. Now, before we start the game, we actually already have a loaded up save here that I want to use because I want to demonstrate something. So, this is how the stats work in Morrowind. You have these attributes, and they are all fed by your skills. And you have three types of skills. You have major, minor, and miscellaneous. Now, this is very different from Skyrim because you actually don't have any of this in Skyrim. So, when we make a character, we get to select our major and minor skills. These are hand-picked by us, or if you choose a class, they can give you like a class that has these already picked out for you, in case you don't know. However, we're going to be making our own. But anyways, so the main difference from Skyrim and Morrowind is its combat system. So in Skyrim, no matter what level you are, you could just pick up a weapon and start using it, and it might not do too much damage, but as you level it up, it'll do more damage, and you can unlock perks and all that other stuff. That's not how this works in Morrowind at all. So I want you to look at my major skills and see that I have Longblade right at the top at level 40. So, and it's garnered by strength, which we'll talk about attributes more later. But notice how I have Longblade, but look at what weapon I have. I have an Iron Mace, which is a blunt weapon, not a Longblade. So let's see what happens when I try to attack. Oops. When I try to attack this mud crab. So, as you can see, I've only hit it twice, over 3 times now. But I've been swinging like 25 times already, right? Okay, and I killed it. Took 4 hits. But did you see how many times I swung? It was like 20, 25, 30 times. I don't know. I lost count. So, I was able to kill this mud crab, but it took quite a bit. It took me like 20 swings. And the reason for that is that Morrowind has a concept where you can miss. So think like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where you roll a dice to see if you hit or not. Well, it's just like that, except instead of rolling physical dice, the game just does some RNG stuff. And so, if you are not proficient in the weapon, the less likely you are to hit. No matter how close you are to the enemy, no matter how many times you're swinging at it real close, you can miss. And if you notice on the Iron Mace, it has like damage between 1 and 12, and then for thrust it's 1 and 2. If I was higher leveled in a blunt weapon, which I'm not, I think I'm only level 10, yeah, so nothing. And if I was higher leveled, I'd be hitting that mud crab way more often, and it'd be doing more damage. Excuse me. And so, what we want to be using is a Longblade, since that's our governing strength. So, that's one of the key things to remember in the combat system, is that you need to be somewhat proficient in your weapon. This level right here that I have, level 40, this is really good. I won't be missing very often, and if I was an even higher level, I would almost never be missing, and like it'd be like I'd swing 30 times and I might miss once, maybe not even that, and then I'd be doing high amounts of damage every time I was hitting as well. And so this isn't just exclusive to our physical attacks. This is also true to magic, which I have over here. So let's say I want to use shield, which I have if you notice, it has a cost and a chance. So that's how much it costs in mana, and this is how likely I am to be able to cast it. So 51% chance. So pretty much a coin flip. So let's go ahead and try and cast it. Okay, well it worked. And it worked again. There we go. And it failed. And it worked. And it worked. I'm getting really good luck. I'm getting really good luck. Wow. But anyways, you can see that it can fail. Now that was a really bad example because it, worked a ton of times. And sometimes you'll be lucky like that, but other times you won't. Sometimes it'll be the exact opposite, and you'll do it, and it won't get any of those times, even though it was a coin flip. And so, and that's because in Alteration I'm level 30. If I were to be maybe level 60 or 70, that would have a 100% chance, and so on. So, yeah, that is one thing to keep in mind, is that you can fail the cast and you can miss. Alright, so that's just the one thing I wanted to show before we get into character creation, is that you need to be ready for these types of things. You can't just go, oh, well, I want Longblade as a major skill, and then pick up a blunt weapon and go, oh, well, this is like Skyrim. I can just pick up this blunt weapon and use it, and it might just do a little less damage, but whatever. No, you will get killed very easily. So, when you choose a weapon, stick with that weapon type. Unless you level up the other one, but in the meantime, I don't recommend doing that, especially at an early level. So, we're going to start a new game. Okay, so now we are going to be picking our race. This is the first thing we do. And, well, besides naming our character. And so, there's a lot that goes into races in Morrowind, a lot more than you'd think. So, for races, there are 3 types. There is the human, the elf, and then there's the beast races. So, and there's only 2 beast races, which is Argonian and Khajiit. So, if you want to play a more combat-based character, like not a lot of magic, but more combat, then you're going to be going with Nord, Orc, or Redguard. Nord and Orc, actually, for that matter, are much more like hardy kind of warriors. The high strength, high endurance, real tough. Have nice resistances and all that other good stuff. And Orc, same thing, very tough, very hard hitters, and very endurance-based, if you will. Redguard, a little bit different. While they are hardy, they are also a lot more quick, especially with the Adrenaline Rush ability. It really increases everything, and it is a little bit overpowered in my opinion. Adrenaline Rush is really powerful and very useful. Still really good for warrior type of character whenever I do a non-magic class, which is almost never. But when I do, I'm almost always Redguard. And if you're going for a more of a mage-like character, you would be going with Breton or High Elf, since they have Magicka bonuses. And the one thing to note is that Bretons, they have a much smaller Magicka bonus than High Elves. Bretons only have 0.5, while High Elves have 1.5, so 3 times more than what the Bretons get. And so, but in turn, you have all these weaknesses from Magicka, Fire, Frost, Shock, while Bretons, it's the exact opposite. They actually resist Magicka. So that's just something you got to keep in mind. Also, they have slightly different skill bonuses. So when you select these classes, these races, you get these bonuses, which is one thing it does have in common with Skyrim. In Skyrim, there are, depending on what race you get an additional 5 or 10 points in certain stuff. So, yeah. And then, and then if you're going for a more well-rounded character build, either Imperial or Dark Elf, they are kind of like the in between, if you will. They're good with magic and they're good with weapons, or they're good with some stuff in this class and some other stuff in other classes. We will be going with Dark Elf. However, if you're going for a more mage-like character, you will be going with Breton or High Elf. But we will be doing a little bit of magic and a little bit of warrior style stuff, you know, weapons and all that other good stuff. So not exclusively magic. And so the one other thing I need to note is about Argonians and Khajiit. Now they are the two beast races, and beast races have a huge disadvantage in this game. So the advantages they get is they get these very, well, they're not that great of abilities, but they seem great. So for one, Argonians are immune to poison, which actually is pretty useful, but it's not as useful as you would think. And water breathing, which is almost entirely useless. We're on a volcano island, you know. We very rarely use it. There's a couple of quests where there's stuff underwater that you might need to get, but even then, there's water breathing spells and water breathing potions. It's not that useful. And Khajiit has Eye of Night and Eye of Fear, which again, like, it's kind of nice, but it's like we have spells that do the same thing. It's not really that huge. And so if you want to play these races, go ahead, but you need to know the big con that beast races have, and that is that there's two types of armor and clothing types that they cannot wear, and that's boots and face covering helmets. So if they have a helmet that shows the face, then they can wear it, but if it covers the whole face, a helmet, they can't wear them. So this can be extremely taxing, especially with your arm, like if you have heavy or light armor, because your armor rating is dropped significantly just because you lose out on the boots, or sometimes you even miss out on the helmet, and it could be a bit of an issue. So, however, if you want to play one of these races, you can. They are very good for agility, speed type of characters. In fact, if it wasn't for the Redguard's Adrenaline Rush ability, Argonians would still be used in speedruns, as they are naturally the fastest without any abilities. So yeah, but we'll be going with Dark Elf, because they're very well rounded. You get some stuff in Destruction, some stuff in Long Blade, some stuff in, we also get a Marksman, which we won't be using. But yeah, and then we get Athletics, which is in Speed. We get the works, if you will. So we're going to be going with Dark Elf for this playthrough. Or tutorial, I should say.
Great. I'm sure you'll fit right in. Follow me up to the office and they'll finish your release.
So we can generate a class by just answering some questions. Don't do that. You can pick from a class list. You can do that. I don't recommend it. And then fill out your forms yourself. Now, that's what I recommend. So we're going to create our own custom class, and we can name it whatever. I'm going to name this Tutorial. But you can name it whatever. You can even keep it as Adventurer, as that's the default one. So the first thing is specializations. So as you can see, it says that you get a +5 to all skills in your specialization, and they'll also be easier to train as well, which is very useful. So you can choose between combat, magic, and stealth. I recommend for a first-time player to use combat. In fact, I highly recommend a first-time Morrowind player to not go for stealth. Stealth is not nearly as beneficial as in Skyrim. In fact, Skyrim, I think it's a little too easy. It's a little too broken. But in Morrowind, it's a lot more against you. So before doing it, I recommend learning the game a bit more before trying to attempt any stealth stuff. However, you can pick up magic early on, but we're going to go with combat as it's a bit more useful. So, yeah, combat. And then favorite attributes are strength and intelligence. So an attribute is you get a +10 to each of your favorite attributes. Now, I'm going to keep this as strength and intelligence. Now, we're going to talk about attributes now, though. So there are... I'm sorry, I zoned out for a bit. There are 8 attributes. Now, strength is one of the most important ones, as it garners it has a lot of things to it. So it affects your starting health, how much you can carry, your maximum fatigue, and how much damage you do in melee. That is a lot. So if you have low strength, you won't hit hard with your weapons, you won't have a good starting health, you will become over encumbered, and in Morrowind, it's very different from Skyrim. In Morrowind, when you are over encumbered, you cannot move. You are stuck in place until you unencumber yourself. So, yeah, in Skyrim, you just walk really slowly and can't fast travel. Well, in Morrowind, you can't fast travel regardless, and you can't move when you're over encumbered. So, very important to not be over encumbered. The next one is intelligence, which determines your maximum amount of magicka. So in Skyrim, whenever you level up, you get to increase health, stamina, or magicka by 10 points. That is not how it works in Morrowind at all. In fact, when you level up, it has nothing to do with any of those 3 things. Instead, whenever you level up, you get an option to increase one of your 8 attributes. You get the option to upgrade 3 out of the 8 attributes that you have until they max out at 100. And so, if you want to increase your magicka, then you have to put it in intelligence. If you want to increase your health, you'll have to put it in endurance. Yep. And if you want to increase your fatigue, I believe it's also endurance. Okay. So yeah. So as for intelligence, you will max out at 100 magicka, because that's what you'll have is 100 intelligence points. And if you want more magicka than that, you will have to pick a certain sign, or you'll have to be one of the races that we were just talking about, Altmer, High Elf, or Breton. The other one is willpower, which affects your ability to resist magicka and your maximum fatigue. This is like your defense against magical attacks, and it also gives you a fatigue bonus, so why not? That's the thing about Morrowind. In Morrowind, it's called fatigue. In Skyrim, it's called stamina. So, yeah. And so, the next one is agility. This one's very useful. It affects your ability to dodge and hit targets in melee, as well as your maximum fatigue. So, this is what... the higher your agility, the more likely you are to hit, and the more likely they are to miss on you. So very useful to have. High speed determines how fast you can move. Doesn't seem very useful until you realize how slow you move in Morrowind. It's much slower paced than Skyrim. Endurance, we just talked about this one. It affects your starting health, your health gain per level, and your maximum fatigue. You will want to increase this a lot if you want to increase your health and fatigue. Personality. Affects your ability to deal with other characters and how much they like you, exactly what you think it is. And then luck. Now, luck serves 2 purposes. The main purpose is that whenever you increase luck, it actually increases all the other attributes by just a little margin. It's a lot less than if you were to just increase these directly. But by increasing your luck, you increase all of these just a little bit more. And then the second thing about luck is that it is used in a couple of the thieving algorithms. There's these algorithms they use to determine if you pickpocket or steal something properly. And in the algorithms, they actually check your luck. It doesn't affect it very much, but it affects it enough that increasing your luck could help pickpocket better. So yeah, we are actually going to keep it a strength and intelligence, because I want to use a little bit of magic, but also some strength as well, because it affects so much. So yeah, I almost always recommend having strength in here, no matter what your build you're doing. There's only a few where I won't recommend it, but most of the time it's like always have strength, almost always have intelligence. Hi, post-recording. Sorry, there was one thing I forgot to explain, and for whatever reason, I don't know why I forgot to explain it, but whenever you choose a major or a minor class, or minor skill, sorry, you get a buff to it. So I don't know why I forgot to mention this. I guess, whatever. I was watching it back and I completely forgot to mention this. So major skills, you get a 25-point bonus. So if this was not in major skills, it would be 25 levels less. So it would only be level 15 here. So yeah, a lot lower. And then for minor skills, it's very different. It's only I believe it's only a 10 level bonus. Yeah, it's only a 10 level bonus. So all these would be level 5 if it weren't for the fact that I chose them as a minor skill, and then except for athletics, which would be 15, which is a bonus we get for being a dark elf. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. So just be going back to the other stuff. So yeah. Now the first thing we're going to do is choose a weapon. I prefer long blade. It's very versatile, and there's a lot of them in the game, so I usually just go for long blade. And also, if you notice, all these skills are broken between combat, magic, and stealth. When we chose this specialization, it increases all of these by 5. If we were to select magic, it would increase all of these by 5, and if we were to select stealth, it would increase all of these by 5, and also make them easier to level up. So yeah. So the next one we're going to be choosing is an armor type. Now, because I went with combat, it actually would make more sense if I went with heavy or medium armor, but I actually want to go with light armor because I just like a lot of the light armor options. And so, that's funny, they're actually all lined up like this. Also, there's an unarmored option, which is a valid way to go. However, I will say it is the weakest out of all the armors. If you maximize your light armor skill and you have the best light armor on, you have an armor rating of like 130, 140, something like that, versus unarmored at a maximum level is like 60 armor rating or 70 armor rating. It's a huge difference, and that's just between light armor and unarmored. Between medium and heavy armor, it's even bigger of a gap. So next I want to choose a magic type. So we're going to be using destruction and restoration. So I'm pretty happy with that. And so that's the one interesting thing. One thing I neglected to mention is that magic, if you successfully cast it, it cannot miss. So once it is casted, it cannot miss. So it might say, oh, it failed to cast, right? But if it didn't say that and it casted the spell, it will not miss. So very beneficial for destruction. So if you missed, you know, because it immediately said, oh, well, you failed to cast a spell. However, if you've successfully casted a destruction spell, it will hit 100% of the time. Unless they have a reflect spell or a shield spell up or something like that. So the next one we're going to be going with, thinking about actually doing another magic one, but I think instead I will use acrobatics. This garners how much you can jump and how far heights you can drop. It's actually very useful. And then the next one I will do is athletics, which is just how fast you move. How fast you move and how little fatigue you use while moving. And then the next one we're going to do is mercantile. So speechcraft and mercantile are split in this game. In Skyrim, they're the exact same. They're combined together into speechcraft. In Morrowind, they're separate. Mercantile is for selling and buying, getting better prices at stores and selling stuff for higher prices. Speechcraft is for simply just talking with people. So, and making them like you, or dislike you, or whatever you want. So, I'm going to choose mercantile. Kind of want to use illusion magic. Kind of want to use alchemy. Is there anything else I should choose? Because I'm choosing a lot of magic. I think I will actually go with Speechcraft. Okay.
Very good. The letter that preceded you mentioned you were born under a certain sign. And what would that be?
Alright, now signs. Now in Skyrim, these are standing stones, but which means you can change them. In Skyrim, not Skyrim, in Morrowind, no such thing. You cannot change these. Once you have it, you are stuck with it. So choose wisely. So I could go through all of these, although, yeah, I will go through all these. So the Apprentice is the one we're going to be going with. It fortifies your maximum magicka by 1.5 times, but it gives you weakness of magicka by 50%. With our resistance to fire, it's really not that big of a deal, and we'll be armored up enough anyways, and we'll have spells and potions that'll negate that in the future. Atronach is the one I usually go with. It fortifies your maximum magicka by 2 times. Now the reason why I go for this is because I'm almost always a mage. So, and you also get spell absorption by 50 points. So if they cast a spell on you and it does 50 points of damage, instead you absorb 50 points of magicka. It's pretty useful. And then the downside to this though is that your magicka is stunted, which means you cannot regenerate magicka on your own. You have to use potions or some other method. You cannot just sleep, you cannot just wait, it will not generate. And that freaks a lot of people out, but really it's not that hard to manage, especially in Morrowind where things don't regenerate automatically anyways. Next is the Lady, very useful. Fortifies your personality by 25 and endurance by 25, so just a huge buff at the beginning. The Lord makes you weak to fire. However, you restore health 2 points for 30 seconds on self. Not that useful. It's actually kind of dumb, in my opinion. It regenerates your health very slowly, so not my kind of spell, not my kind of thing, but to each his own. The Lover, it's pretty useful. So you get a Fortify Agility by 25 points, and you also get a Paralyze spell and a Damage Fatigue spell. Pretty useful for hand-to-hand users, which I don't recommend for a first-time playthrough, but you can if you want to. The Mage, which is just wimpy versions of the Apprentice and Atronach. You don't get any bad effects, but in turn, you don't get that huge of a magicka increase. The Ritual, pretty useful. You get a spell that just heals you by 100 points, which is really good. And you get some Turn Undead spells, so that's cool. Not as useful. There are burial tombs, so it's useful in there, but generally it's not too special. But what is good is the health. The Serpent, kind of dumb. I don't recommend it. You poison for 3 points for 30 seconds, but in turn you are then hurt for 1 point for 30 seconds on self. It's stupid. Shadow. Now you might see this and go, "Oh, well, this must be the best one." Turning invisible for 60 seconds. There are spells that do this, and with a medium level illusion skill, it's not that useful. I guess if you're playing a thief character, it can be helpful, but invisibility isn't as useful as you think it is. The Steed, fortify speed by 25 points. Now, if you're a speedrunner, go for this one. This is the one they all use. If you're not a speedrunner, don't. It's a very short-lived enjoyment. Very, very soon onwards, you'll realize, oh man, I wish I just leveled my speed up naturally instead of taking the quick way, and then not getting a cooler sign abilities. The Thief, Sanctuary for 10 points. I mean, it's kind of useful, but not really. The tower, this is a really good beginner one. This is the one I used for all my beginning playthroughs. Very first playthrough I did, I used this one, and quite a few after I used. Now that I play more of a mage character, I don't ever choose this, but very good for beginner players. It gives you the option to open 50 points on touch, and how lock picking works in this game is that it's not a novice, adept, expert, master level locks. Instead, they are garnered from a level from 1 to 100. And what this power does is that any lock that has a 50 point level and lower will unlock automatically, which is pretty useful at the beginning of the game. And then also you get these other cool abilities like detecting animal, detecting enchantment, and detecting key, which is good for puzzles and all that stuff to find things in dungeons and stuff. It's actually quite useful. And then the warrior fortifies your attack by 10 points, which it's kind of nice, but it's not that useful. It's just like a little oomph, if you will. But when you get to the higher levels, it'll seem very trivial. So we're going with the Apprentice, which fortifies our maximum magicka by 1.5 times, but in turn we will take a weakness to magicka. That's fine.
Interesting. Now, before I stamp these papers, make sure this information is correct.
Now, they get to allow you to change things around, which is good. If you decided to change how you wanted to do your character, like halfway through, then you can do that. You can fix it. So this is our character. This is everything we get. Oh, we also get to start off with some spells. Because I chose, as a major skill, Destruction and Restoration, I get Hearth Heal and Fire Bite, which are pretty decent spells, at level 1 at least. So because the way we selected stuff, we only start out with 45 health. However, we get 125 magicka, which is a lot, judging by the fact that if you don't have any bonuses to magicka, you could only max out at 100. So, yeah. Okay.
Show your papers to the captain when you exit to get
So
your
we'll
release.
take those. Okay. Now, congratulations, we created a character. Now, I'm going to go through this beginning section just a little bit, and then we'll end the video here. So the very first thing I'm going to show you in Morrowind is the thing that everyone in the history of Forever does in Morrowind, and that is to steal the lime-aware platter. Now, some people forego doing this for metagaming and reasons and stuff like that, but it's your first playthrough, just do it. So this is the limeware platter. It has a value of 650 septims, which is a lot. So that's where we're going to steal it. So get comfortable with your menu button. On Xbox, I think it's the B button, although don't quote me on that. I think it's the B button, though. Just check. And on PC, it's tab, unless you changed the keyboard layout. So you're going to grab this with E or A on Xbox, E on PC, and then as soon as you do it, you're going to press your menu button really quickly. So we're going to click it, and now we're going to pick this up, and we're going to drop it. Now, because the game hasn't started yet, he isn't going to give us a bounty. Instead, he's just going to tell us, what are you doing? We'll let it go for now, but once you're released, stuff like that will get you arrested. So you hit goodbye, and now here's the best part. Because it was in our inventory and we dropped it, it no longer considers this part of their stuff. It's now considered ours, so we can just pick it up and they don't care. So yeah,
Continue through to the next building and talk.
stealing the limeware platter. Okay. Now, this is the tutorial section they give you. It's really mediocre. They really fixed this in Oblivion and Skyrim, giving you a better tutorial section. But, I mean, the benefit to this is that you could start the game very quickly. But anyways, we're going to take some of the stuff here. So this is Flynn, which has a value of 100. So, of course, we're going to take it. And my general consensus is that if it has a value over 10, you should probably pick it up unless it is really heavy. Speaking of which, we have a 250 encumbrance level. So, yeah. 17, I had to pick that up. 30, 21. And then, okay, so this is a lockpick. So we picked that up. It was sitting right over here, and we picked that up. And here's a lock that is level 1. So we should be able to pick this even though we don't have any lockpicking skill. Because it's level 1, we should be able to do it since it's so easy. Now, if you notice, lockpicks have a certain amount of uses. This is very different from Oblivion and Skyrim. So we don't have like a million lockpicks. Instead, we just have 1 or 2 or 3, and they all have a certain level of uses you can use on them. And there's no mini game like there is in Oblivion or Skyrim. All you do is you equip it like you would with the weapon, and you just hold down a button on it, and I got it very first try. Okay. Well, if it didn't work, it would go lockpicking failed, and then you'd just do it again until it would succeed. I got it on first try, which is pretty lucky. So we're going to pick that out, and it's 31 gold. It's always 31 gold. So, and then this is a book that has a value of 40, so we're going to pick that up. The Matse has exactly a value of 10, so we're going to pick that up. Now, these all have the exact same stuff every single time you open them, which it's nothing really that valuable. So in turn, we're going to come down here into these baskets and sacks. These change every time, I believe. So, actually, Willow Anther. So, I'll be showing some stuff in the Mages Guild quest line, and one of the things is to collect, one of the quests is to collect 4 flowers. This happens to be one of them. I don't expect any of you to know that, but I'm just grabbing it ahead of time. The other one is Stone Flower, so I'll be grabbing that. That's actually pretty lucky. Usually you either don't get any of them or only one of them. So, yeah. There's also another quest where we collect 4 mushrooms, and they're all here in St. Anine. I will be talking about that in a different part. Gonna come out now. And now this is like the magic tutorial. They want us to go into this barrel and take this ring, which is the engraved ring of healing. And now it's going to show, hey, now you can do magic stuff. So now when I pause, or not pause, but open up the menu, now the magic stuff's here. We also have a map here now. Now, if you notice, mine's locked on the screen. If you're on Xbox, you can't mess with the menuing. It's already default. But on PC, you can change your menuing around. And so if you notice, there's these little squares. If you click on them, it gets locked onto your onto the game. And you also can resize these just like you would with a regular window, like on your computer. So yeah, you can set it how you want, and then you just have a little map in the corner. That's how I like to play, at least.
Your papers, please.
So now we're going to talk to the captain. I am going to... So we're going to hit background, Morrowind. And then he tells us that we have some duties. And so he tells us this package came with the news of your arrival. You are to take it to Caius Cosatus in Mount Balmora. So he's in Balmora, and we're to go to the South Wall Corner Club and ask about him, and they'll know where to find him. So that's what we got to do. We got to go to Balmora and, you know, do that and meet Caius Cosatus. So that's all we need from him, so we can leave now. And now it is actually imperative that you do this. You need to do this. You need to hit escape or start on the Xbox and hit save. And we're going to save. We'll name this Nexus. And we're done. At least for this part. Well, congratulations, you created your first character, and we will be doing stuff in the next part. So, see you then.